Writing 250. Welcome back from spring break, and welcome to week 9 of the course. In some ways, we're entering the final stretch. Your project that you proposed in your topic proposal is the project that you're going to pursue for the rest of the semester. And things should start to even out a little bit at this point. Things are going to start feeling a little bit more familiar for us as we move towards the conclusion of the course. So the project that you're working on right now is called a literature review. And I want to remind you of a couple of things that you should keep in mind, particularly some things that I saw that were problematic in the topic proposal. The first is an overuse of I. Now, in the literature review, there is no I allowed. No first person at all. You're not talking about yourself. You're not talking about your process. You're not talking really even about your place in doing this research. You're talking about the research itself and how it communicates with each other, and how these different articles speak to each other, how they overlap, what differences they have, and what gaps there are in the research that you've gathered. So no I. But when you get to the research prospectus, I is going to be acceptable in extreme moderation. And I want you to keep that in mind as we move forward. Saying things like, I think that this is important, or I believe that this is the case, or my research has shown that this is what's going on. All of that is unnecessary. There are going to be maybe one or two places in your research prospectus where using I is justified and useful. But if you're starting your sentences with I believe, or I feel, or I think, or my research shows, or if you find yourself telling a story about how you gathered your research, or how you are going to how you're going to go about talking about how it speaks to each other, that's a problem. So I've got another lecture that I'm going to send out a little bit later once we get to the research prospectus about overuse of I. But in the meantime, I want you to be thinking about the fact that it's very rarely going to be acceptable, and it's absolutely not going to be acceptable in the literature review. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you all about is the length requirements for your papers. Now, for the topic proposal, if for the topic proposal, our length requirement was 3 to 4 pages. That doesn't mean 2 pages and a couple of more lines. That means a very minimum of 3 pages, and that is if your writing is just as tight as it can be. No extra words, no unnecessary information. And in most cases, in order for a paper to be fully developed, the paper is going to need to be closer to 4 pages. Now, the students who got A's on this assignment are the students who really pushed to get as much information as they could into that assignment. And as a result, ended up going into about 4 to 5 pages. And that's fine. I'm not going to mind if you go over the length range that you're given. But just keep in mind that in most cases, you need to aim for the higher end of that range. And then if you fall a little bit short of that higher end of the range, then you're fine. So for the topic proposal, if you aimed for 4 pages and then you hit about 3 1/4 or 3 1/2, you're safe. But if you aim for 3 pages and you only make it 2 pages and a couple of more lines, that doesn't in any way fulfill the requirements of the paper. And the reason that we do that, I don't take off points just because a paper is a couple of lines short. Your paper falls a little bit short when it doesn't fully examine the concepts that it needs to examine, that it doesn't fully explore the research that that you're discussing. And we give you those length requirements specifically because that is what students tend to need to get their point across fully. So in short, as we move towards the lit review, look at the page range and aim for the higher end of that range, right? And then if you fall a little bit short of that, you're okay. But don't make the mistake a second time of thinking that 3 pages means just going into the 3rd page for a couple of lines. It doesn't. It means a full 3 pages or more. And in most cases, it's going to be more. All right, so if y'all have any questions about anything that we've covered, that I've covered in this video, or any questions about the literature review as we move towards it, don't hesitate to let me know. Keep an eye on your due dates, and by all means, keep an eye on your reading assignments. The students who are, contacting me with questions about their feedback have tended to be students who have said, I haven't been doing the reading because there are no quizzes, there are no tests associated with them. I understand that impulse, but that reading is there to help you do well in the course. So make sure that you're keeping up with it. You're only doing a detriment to yourself if you don't. So keep an eye on the reading assignments, keep an eye on your due dates, and let me know if you've got any questions.